again, we're glad you're here tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce the folks from Wild Wonders, an animal rescue and conservation organization. Kimberly Wright is the co-director, and so we're going to hear from her tonight, as well as Jocelyn Peck, who is the volunteer coordinator. So please give a warm welcome to Wild Wonders.
Thank you, Don. We appreciate you having us here tonight. Good evening, everyone. How are we doing in this hot, hot evening? It is very hot. Well, my name is Kimberly Wright, and I have been working for the last 14 years at a facility called Wild Wonders. And what we are is a wildlife education organization in North County, San Diego, and Bonsall. And we have a three-pronged mission at our organization, and it's to rescue, educate, and conserve. So tonight, I'd like to introduce you to a few of my special friends that I've brought tonight. So I've really had an appreciation since early childhood for conservation and nature. And I wanted to kind of impart a little bit of that to you tonight. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a journey. And I'd like to introduce you to some of my furred, feathered, no-legged, four-legged, scaly animal ambassadors tonight from all over the world. And we're going to talk a little bit about their survival strategies and some of the threats that they do face out in the wild, and maybe a few conservation organizations that are really trying to make an impact for these animals. So, without further ado, we are going to start in one of the hottest parts of the world. We are going to go all the way over to the northern deserts of Africa, the Sahara. And we are going to meet one of the smallest animal ambassadors of his species. Now, his name is Frodo. And he is an amazing little guy that is one of our very unique animal ambassadors. Let's see if I can bring him out here. From the deserts of northern Africa. And here he is. We'll let him settle in just a moment. This little guy, does anybody have any idea what he might be? A Fennec Fox. Yes, he is. He's a Fennec Fox from the region of northern Africa, Chad and Niger, and the Sahara Desert. Right? So this little guy is the smallest type of fox in the world. About 3 or 4 pounds. You're not going to get any bigger than this. He's full grown. Now, he does have some very specialized survival strategies. As you can imagine, when you live in a harsh desert climate like the Sahara Desert, you really have to have some very specialized adaptations to help survive that type of harsh climate. So he does. He's got these big giant ears. Right? So all of the heat from his body, or most of it, goes through these giant ears of his. He's got these specialized veins in those ears. So they help keep him cool during the hottest parts of the day. He also has a behavior that helps him survive out there. His strategy is to dig. And they dig big dens under the ground. And that's where they live communally with all of their other family members. They all take part in raising the offspring. They say safety in numbers as well. But they dig these big dens under the ground. So another strategy that he has, while he's digging, he has fur on the bottoms of his feet. So those are like built-in sand shoes, so his feet never burn when he's running across the hot, hot sand. Now he needs these survival strategies because he's facing a lot of pressures out there, a lot of conservation threats. A lot of conservation work is being done with the threats that these guys face. You wouldn't think in a 3.5 million square mile area like the Sahara Desert that you would have to worry about pressures. But he does. Mankind really is pushing animals to the brink in many different areas. So the two main threats that he is facing right there is habitat, right, encroachment from humans, right, and hunting pressure. Those are two big factors that these guys are facing, even in as big and as dry an area as the Sahara Desert. So the problem is there's settlements coming in to the deserts, and there is exploratory drilling. So with drilling comes roadways and people. and more movement. So they're really disrupting the habitat that these fennec fox live in. So there is good news. There is a very important conservation project called the Sahara Conservation Fund. And what they do is a couple things. They spend a lot of financial monies trying to help the researchers do data research. So there's a lot of data gathering about all the Saharan animals, including the fennec fox. Because the fennec fox is on CITES Appendix 2, which is a vulnerable animal. That means they are protected in certain areas of the desert habitats. And so the trade in fennec fox is also regulated. So these guys have the Sahara Conservation Fund helping them, and also the other animals in the desert to help reintroduce other animals into the Sahara Desert. So they encompass all of that. So it's a really important project to help even little guys like this, because hunting pressure, they say, is one of the biggest pressures that face all of the animals in the Sahara. So as you can imagine, this little guy can be hunted for his fur coat. It's a beautiful fur coat. And he uses that fur coat and that big bushy tail to help keep him warm at night because he's a nocturnal animal. So that is another one of his survival strategies out there in the desert climate. He is also the very fastest fox in the entire world. And he's fast enough to catch his favorite lunch, desert scorpions. One of his favorite things, right? They can eat them before they can sting them. They're very, very fast. They're very fast diggers. They're very fast grabbers.
How old is he?
How old is he? He is almost 3 years old, so full grown.
Was he captured?
He was actually born in captivity to do just what he's doing here, to be an animal education ambassador. So we have several animals that were not rescued, but were born in captivity to be an ambassador animal. All right, so we're going to say goodbye to Frodo and meet another ambassador. And we are now going to, hello, we're now going to actually return to our urban landscape. And we're going to talk a little bit about conservation that doesn't really get enough notice in our urban cities and suburban areas. We're going to meet Archimedes. Archimedes. We call him Archie for short. And it's quite appropriate now as we're getting near Halloween. Hello. Archie, will show you his beautiful feathers, is a great horned owl. And great horned owls have these feathers on top of his head, and that's where he gets his name. They're not ears, because they look like horns. Very good. Great horned owls are very important to the environment. They're one of the most adaptive animals to all different climates, except for the Arctic. But they can survive in desert, in grasslands, in urban areas. And you probably all have heard the sound from these guys out there in the wild. They sound like this. Ooh, 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 ooh. And that's the sound of a great horned owl. Right, very good. Now, as you can see, he has a pretty big wingspan, and he has some great survival strategies that go along with that wingspan. Silent flight. His wings are a special shape, so he doesn't make a sound when he's hunting his prey, which can be hundreds and hundreds of mice a year. So this is one of the best pest control we have here in our urban landscape. Now these guys are very adapted to different climates, so they're throughout North America, and especially suited to urban living, believe it or not. But the threats that they do face are important. Urban sprawl and loss of habitat. Those are the two major threats as people build more and more developments and they encroach upon the habitats. They lose trees, they lose their nesting sites, right? And pesticides from people use to help keep the rodent population down. It lowers the food supply for these guys. So they do face a lot of threats and pressures out there, even in our little urban landscape. Now he is very specialized He has some special eyes. He has great acute vision, very acute vision. And a hearing as well. He has one ear on the top and one ear on the bottom. He has asymmetrical ears. And he has specialized feathers around his face, so he actually can funnel sound from all directions. So very, very specialized survival strategies. He also has very powerful talons, and he can lift something 5 times his weight. Any idea how much he might weigh? Any guesses?
2 pounds?
Very good. He's about 2 pounds. A little less than 2 pounds. Yeah, but that means he can lift something about 10 pounds. So it could be as big as a skunk even. And great horned owls don't have a sense of smell, so they don't mind if they take out a skunk or two once in a while. But his eyeballs now are fixed in his head, so he cannot move his eyeballs. But lucky for owls, they can turn their head about 270 degrees in each direction. They have extra vertebrae and extra spaces for those blood vessels, so they're able to turn their head and pretty much see with eyes behind their head. Very good, Archie. Pardon me? How old is he? He just turned 7 this year. Yes. They're actually pretty long-lived, 20 to 30 years out there in the landscape. Now, he does have these urban sprawl and encroachment from humans. Those are his threats. But there's a great organization that you're probably all familiar with that really works with North American animals, National Wildlife Federation. They do a fantastic job of educating the public, kids and adults, communities, about how we need to coexist with our wildlife right here, even in cities. And so what they do is they have a lot of educational materials. They do programs throughout the community. Their backyard habitats, gardens for wildlife, really trying to create more green space and get people to develop more green space and restore more habitats in our urban areas. So that's a really important organization because we do need to learn to coexist with these guys because they are great pest control, right? And they're pretty amazing as well. Very good. He was a rescue. Yes, he did. He fell out of the nest when he was just a hatchling. Luckily, someone found him right away, and they took him to our local rehabber here, which you've probably heard of, Project Wildlife. Yes, and it took them about 5 or 6 months to get him stable, where he was eating and he was off medication, and then we were able to take him in. By the time he was stabilized, he was imprinted on humans, so he couldn't be released into the wild. So lucky for him, he has a great educational home right here of being a great animal ambassador. All right, Archie, good boy. There we go. Good. The hawks are primarily diurnal or daytime, and the owls are nocturnal. Sometimes if you're driving, you may see a white whoosh in front of your car, and it's usually an owl without a sound, silent flight. But if you do hear that whoo, whoo, that is a great horned owl. Barn owls sound completely different. All right, next. Are you ready? Okay, we are now going to travel to Central and South American rainforest. And we are going to meet a natural predator out there. And you wouldn't think that a predator would have some threats, but they do. This is Brownie. And Brownie is a Colombian redtail boa constrictor. Now Brownie is not a venomous snake like a rattlesnake. He is a constrictor, so he likes to give hugs. Yeah, sometimes deadly, deadly hugs. But right now he's really hanging on to Jocelyn like she's a tree in the rainforest with hundreds and thousands of scales and muscles on his body. So he does have some fantastic survival strategies out in the wild. These guys have great vision. They even see within the UV spectrum, so excellent vision. He doesn't have heat-sensing pits like pythons do, so they need that extra vision. Now, they don't have ears. Snakes don't have ears, but he can feel vibrations in his jawbone. Right, so those vibrations in the air and also along the ground give him some great hunting ability. And as you can imagine, his camouflage is pretty good in the rainforest as well. That's a really great survival strategy he has. Most of these boas are nocturnal, so they spend their time at night hunting an unsuspecting prey, like rodents primarily. So these guys are also really important as pest control in the rainforest. So they have great survivability, except for a couple things. They're a rainforest animal, so deforestation and habitat loss are his primary problems out there, as all rainforest animals are facing those stressors. Also, hunting pressure is very big for these large snakes, and they're hunted for their skins, their beautiful skins, still to make purses and boots and belts and hat bands. So we face this tremendous hunting pressure. Also, the pet trade. They are over-harvested from the rainforest for the pet trade. And this guy is no little guy. He's going to be about 12 to 15 feet long and a couple 100 pounds, right? So definitely not a great pet. But he certainly can take out many, many rodents in his lifetime. So that's where he needs to be. Now, so he does have these threats. Hunting pressure, the deforestation, the habitat loss, all wrapped up in your work, I see. Very good. But there's some conservation organizations that are helping rainforest animals. Many, many out there. There's a couple that I can think of right now. Rainforest Action Network. They are really a fabulous resource because not only do they provide funding, they provide grants. They raise funds to provide grants for the local communities to help them incentivize to restore their rainforests and help protect their own local communities. Right? So that's very important to empower the local people to be able to protect their own livelihood of the rainforest and also their animals that live there. So you do have to give them an incentive, though, because there needs to be a reason, not just because they're beautiful or they're great pest control. You can tell them all this, but you really have to give them a concrete reason that's very tangible to them. Right? So there's another organization, Conservation International, which you might have heard. It's a big organization. They actually purchase rainforest property, and they help fund the local people restore the rainforest and give them sustainable business models. They help them develop sustainable models like sustainable coffee plantations. So those things are possible. So that's really important to be able to give them something tangible that they can reach out and kind of make their own. Because you need to empower people to kind of develop their own worth and their own livelihood in their own communities. Very good. How's he doing? I know he's getting warm in here. Very good. These guys are very specialized, though. They have a quadrate bone in their jaw, so it allows them to open their mouth extra wide. Does anybody think that they have teeth? I hear from a lot that they don't believe they have teeth, these constrictors, but they have about 200 teeth all facing backwards down their throat. These small ones, but they do face backwards, and so they can actually grab their prey and walk it down their throat. What goes in doesn't come back out very easily, right? So they are very specialized. Very good. Any questions about our boa constrictor? Pardon me? He is a Colombian Redtail boa constrictor. We call him Brownie. This snake was born at our facility, and he is about 14 years old now. So they can live 20 to 30 years. Quite a long-lived species as well. All right. Oh, he really wants out. All right. Let's move on to another area of the world. I'll help you out here. We're going to go to South America now, to Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, that mid-southern Brazil even. And we're going to meet one of the best bulldozers or excavators of South America. We'll let Jocelyn get all ready, and then we're going to bring out a little tiny digger named Holly Jolly. And there she is. So this is an armadillo. But she's not just any kind of armadillo. She is a screaming dwarf hairy armadillo. That is actually her species. There's about 20 or 23 species of armadillo out there. And she is one of the smallest types. Now they call them armadillo because they have body armor plates all over their body. And she has elastic skin in between those plates, so it allows her to kind of curl up into a ball. She has plates on her tail, even a little helmet right on her head. And to kind of tuck in is one of their survival strategies, right? They can't curl up into a ball. Only one armadillo can do that, the three-banded armadillo. But one of their strategies is just kind of tuck in and help protect themselves. It's called Little Armored One, is where they get their name. Now, as Jocelyn's bringing her around, you're able to see her fingernails and toenails, and you'll see why these guys are the best excavators or bulldozers of South America. They're diggers, and that's what they do primarily. They're digging in the ground and foraging for all the creepy crawlies and all the insects out there. That's primarily what they eat. Now, she is a hairy armadillo. She's got hair all over her body. That is another survival strategy she has. It acts like whiskers, so it helps her feel the bottom of the forest. They're primarily found in this kind of soft earth that they can kind of dig up and aerate, and that is one of the best things that they're known for, is they're aerating the soil, and they're spreading it out, and so they're really modifying the habitat. They're habitat modifiers. They actually create burrows and refuges for other animals during times of stress or low resources. Their burrows under the ground are really creating other habitats. So these guys are very important. And out of 20 species of armadillo, all of the populations are declining except for one, the 9-banded armadillo, which is here in the United States, right, in the southeast. Right? All the populations are declining. They face a lot of different threats out there. Because they're so varied in so many different habitats in South America, they are under pressure for habitat degradation, right? The changing of their habitat, deforestation, habitat loss. Are you seeing a pattern here? It's a big one because there are cattle ranches that move in, there is agro-industrial farming that's happening, there's timber foraging, all of that's happening for these guys in their areas. And these little guys are very important to the environment, but they're facing serious threats, especially hunting pressure. You wouldn't believe people would want to hunt these little things, but they hunt them for their meat and also for musical instruments, for souvenirs. Even the giant armadillo's claw is taken as a trinket. So the giant armadillo is one of the most vulnerable of all of the armadillos out there. So the conservation project, the Giant Armadillo Conservation Project, is one that helps protect it, right? And this is in SeaWorld and the Houston Zoo are both highly involved with the Giant Armadillo Conservation Project. About 80% of the funding comes from Houston Zoo and SeaWorld to help provide funding for local scientists to help research these guys. So it's very important, and it's an example of why zoos are important. There's a lot of controversy out there these days that zoos and captive animals may not be a great thing, but zoos are really important because they can really shed a light and raise awareness on conservation of species and get out to a huge volume of people very quickly. So it's important. And a lot of times they have these species at their zoos so people can see them up close and have some kind of appreciation for them. They're not just a picture in a book or a name out there. Right? Plus, they also provide really critical funding for some of these important conservation projects. So zoos truly are important in helping to get the word out. Very good. All right. All right, so that's Holly Jolly, and she is our screaming dwarf hairy armadillo. She doesn't scream, which is a good thing, because it is an alarm call out there, another survival strategy. All right, so now we are going to meet another rainforest animal. As you can imagine, we have many rainforest animals. It is because rainforests are one of the most diverse places on Earth. Her name is Kima. And she's wide awake right now because she's a nocturnal animal. What kind of animal could this be? Any guesses? Any ideas? What do you think? Is that what you say? Kinkajou. Very good. This is a kinkajou. For those of you that don't know what a kinkajou is, she is from the Central and South American rainforest, and even southern Mexico they're found. She is a cousin to the raccoon. She's in the raccoon family. Even though she looks like a monkey, she acts like a monkey. She loves sweet fruit like all primates. Right? Very good. But she is in the raccoon family. So she has some amazing survival strategies. She's an acrobat of the rainforest. So what she will do is she will leap from tree to tree, branch to branch, and she can forage for all of the sweet, juicy fruits around it. She holds her head upside down to catch all of that juice down her throat. She doesn't lose a drop. And as she's foraging for all of those fruits, she's also looking for beehives because kinkajous love honey. And when a kinkajou finds a beehive, what she's going to do is she's going to slam her whole head into that beehive. And she has a tongue almost as long as my foot. And she can lick on all the honey in that beehive. That makes them excellent pollinators in the rainforest as well. Very good. Now her survival strategy is very important for those bees because she has a very thick fur coat. Bees can only sting her on her nose and her ears because her fur is very, very thick. Even water washes right off her back. So kinkajous never go outside without the raincoat on. Now she does have a handy-dandy tool to help her out in the rainforest. She has a prehensile tail. So that is a great survival strategy out there if you're trying to get away from a predator. This tail is really helpful. It's also really helpful in finding her food and eating her food. It gives her two hands to hang on to her lunch because there are predators like boa constrictors and jaguars that might want to make a snack out of a kinkajou. So that great prehensile tail is very important to her survival. Yes, they're cousins to a raccoon. Yes, they are. Even though they look very much like a primate. She even has an extra bone in her ankle, right here. Let's see if you can take a look at it. So she can twist her feet 180 degrees, climb up and down a tree the same way, no problem at all. This is an adult female. She's 13, and kinkajous can live in captivity even close to 30 years.
Really?
Yes, she was actually born at our organization, and we have her parents, and they're close to 30 right now. Very good. I don't even know which side she's on. Now, kinkajou is another rainforest animal, right? So their pressures are deforestation, habitat loss, the pattern keeps coming, and hunting pressure as well, right? As we're decimating the rainforest, we're clear-cutting them. These guys' homes are being wiped out very rapidly. There is actually a population in Honduras right now that is in danger of extinction. It's very vulnerable right now because they're losing the rainforest very, very quickly. So hunting pressure is a big one as well. And the pet trade or tourism. Because she looks cute and cuddly like she might make a good pet. Definitely not. No, definitely not. This one could send you to the hospital. They're like little gremlins. They get the hangries, that's for sure. So these pressures are being faced by all rainforest animals, especially animals like kinkajous. Oh, that was a banana peel. Thank you for that. But there are organizations, as I said, many that work with rainforest animals. And there's one in particular that Wild Wonders has been working with for many years. It's called Proyecto Titi. That means protecting the titi monkey or cotton-top tamarin. Proyecto Titi. They work in Colombia, where the cotton-top tamarin is just in a small rainforest in Colombia, the only place on earth they're found. Now, Proyecto Titi started out raising awareness for protecting the cotton-top tamarin. And as they matured and they started to get more funding and more awareness, and actually a side effect was protecting the rainforest there, protecting all of the animals in the rainforest in Colombia, of which Kinkajous also live, right? So Proyecto Titi does something in a few ways, something very special. They make a lot of different inroads into the community by educating them of why they should protect the animals in the rainforest, but also incentivizing them, giving them an alternate income in order to make their own money so they won't have to use the rainforest resources as much. They make something called ecomochillos, and they are actually bags made from discarded plastic bags, which is just littered all over the country, right? And so they incentivize the people to clean up the country by picking up the bags, and the women of the community make these handbags and purses, and they sell them. And it gives them a sustainable business. And it's become so sustainable, they've actually been able to have a building where the community meets, and they've developed other things like plastic fence posts so they don't harvest the timber. And they've developed stoves that use less wood-burning fuel. So it's very important to incentivize the local community and give them a reason why they should be proud of what they're doing, and give them a financial reason to sustain their families, right? Because it's easy for us to talk about doing things in other countries, but you have to work with the local communities and educating them and helping them get a good start. Right? So there's good programs out there. It's very important. And Kinkajous are really important in the rainforest, as all rainforest animals are. There's lots of pollinators out there. Everybody has their little niche that they must have in the rain to keep the rainforest growing. Very good. All right, this is Kima. She's our Kinkajou from the rainforest. Thank you. Good job. So now what I'd like to do is for the last animal that I will introduce you tonight, I wanted to bring out one of the really positive stories that we have of an animal that has come back from the brink of extinction. And her name is Dolce. Right here in North America, this is North America's true comeback story. This is what? Of course, it is the American alligator, right? So this is a really important story because about 40 years or so ago, American alligators almost went extinct. We almost hunted them off the face of the earth for their meat and their beautiful soft skins to make purses and boots and belts and handbags with. But because we decided that we needed to coexist with these alligators, we didn't want to lose them, we made very strict laws and legislation to stop hunting alligators in the wild. So because we did that and we have strict trade regulations for alligators, they've actually come back to full strength numbers. They're one of the really good comeback stories that we can attest to right here in North America. It works, this model works because there's very regulated, they are protected species still, but they are very regulated trade-wise and very restricted species. So it's very important because what brought them really back is sustainable farming, believe it or not, alligator farming. Now, it may be a little bit distasteful, right, to some. You don't want to think of it in that respect. However, it really was the impetus for saving the alligator because we realized that we could do a sustainable farming of alligator for leathers and purses still, and we still have them in population numbers that are sustainable in the wild. So there's a variety of things out there, a variety of measures that conservationists use to help support animals. Now, this model may not work in countries that don't have strict regulation, right, or strict trade laws. So it may not work in other countries, but here we've really keeping tabs, and we've kept a really good hold on it legislatively. So it's an important story that everyone should know. Now these guys have some really great survival strategies of their own, right? So they have webbed feet and they have nails, so they can live in water and on land. They have paddles. The power end of an alligator is actually this tail. Super, super strong. We have an eating end, and this is the power end. This is what they do to make those quick turns in the water that make them an excellent predator. They also whip and slap with that tail. It's very strong, very powerful. There's a couple of ways you can tell the difference between an alligator and a crocodile. Is alligators have a short round nose, crocodiles have a very long pointed snout. But, oh, you're making a noise? The easiest way to tell the difference between the two is their teeth, if you want to get close enough. Yeah. Alligators, when their mouth is closed, you can see Dolce's mouth closed. You can only see those top teeth sticking out. But if she were a crocodile, you would see the top and the bottom teeth right away, so you know the difference. Very good. Now, she is not a wimp by any means. She's going to get to be pretty big. So she'll be about 15 feet, about this far, and about 1,000 pounds when she's full grown, right? So not a great pet, but she was part of the pet trade. She's a rescue. Someone thought she would make a great addition to their family, I guess, until she started getting bigger, and then she was dumped. Yeah, so 1,000 pounds, 15 feet. It's a pretty formidable predator to have in your family, so not a great pet, but great survival strategies out there. As you can see, these guys are pretty much living dinosaurs, so they really haven't changed. They're pretty much perfect as predators. They have eyes on the top of their head, right, and they have a nictitating membrane. And so she can blink sideways, see underwater. Great ambush hunters. No problem at all with that. Let's see if we can do that. This one is about 6 or 7. Yeah, 7 at the top end. But they can live about 70 years. And yes, very long-lived animals, like a true dinosaur, right? And it takes them a long time to get to that big size, right? It could be most of their life. They do have a really important aspect to their behavior, though. It's important to keep alligators around because they actually can create habitat for other animals. They're called gator holes because they take those big webbed feet and they dig holes in the mud. And when it rains, those holes fill up with water, and that gives other animals a refuge, a place to live, and a place to drink. So they actually can be habitat modifiers in their own right and create refuges and habitat for other animals. So these guys really, truly are important to keep around in a world. So alligators and crocodiles, crocodilians in general, one of the best parental care in all the reptile world. So oftentimes the female alligator, the mother, will take care of them for 2 to 3 years until they can go on their own. It's very unusual in the reptile world, right? So this is very important. And these guys are pretty smart for a reptile. They say that they have a brain about the size of a cigar. Seems small to us, but large in the reptile world. So pretty smart. They can be trained to a certain extent, right? Target training. They know when where food's coming. I'll promise you that. About a day before, they start getting very excited. Yes?
How often do you feed it?
We do in the winter time once a week. Very slow metabolism. They kind of just lay around all day. They don't do a lot of heavy mobility. So, and then in the summertime, when it heats up, their metabolism heats up a little bit, we do twice a week, depending. They will eat all the time if you feed them, except they do slow down in the winter. They say even alligators in the wild can do an estivation for months at a time. So where they don't eat at all. Yes. We spend a lot of time with them, and we handle them almost daily. So they have aggression in their personalities. They have inherent personalities. Each one is a little bit different. I have a larger one that is a little bit more territorial, than most of the others. So they really are individual personalities. So it's not really a matter of time where they become aggressive. It's going to happen. We socialize them, so we spend lots of time with them. But they do have instinct, and especially reptilian. So as you can imagine, we never put our hands by their mouth. It is truly instinct. So there's not to say that it's going to be an aggressive at a certain age at all. Yes?
In the wild, would one this age be this docile, or would it be more active and less?
I would say less likely to be docile, but at this age, they want to get away from you. They kind of just want, they have a sense of their own size. We can see that in captivity at our organization, and you can see it in the wild. They do have a sense. The larger animals that are adult, they don't have a want to run away. They kind of know their own strength. So they have that sense. Yeah, very good. We have actually one alligator. His name is Gucci, and he's a little, well, we have a sense of humor too. He's smaller. He's smaller than our largest alligator, and we tried to have them live together at one point, and he just kept bullying the bigger one until the bigger one just said, "Okay, I'm done." But so it's inherent different personalities, and we see that all the time with our animals, and especially it's really apparent in animal ambassadors because we do spend so much time with them, and so we can develop and socialize those personalities to a certain extent, but really it is kind of inherent in the being itself. Very good. So by us bringing these really unique animals out to you and talking a little bit about conservation, it's really important that we try to recognize that the importance of our wild things and our wild spaces out there, and really trying to kind of make you think a little bit and be more aware of what's going on out there in the world. And I urge all of you, get involved, get activated, find your passion, really do something bigger than yourself, because human beings right now, we are the only species on the planet that really can make ethical choices about our planet and about the animals that we share it with. And as human beings, we not only have the power, we do have an obligation to preserve and protect the homes and habitats for these guys' wild cousins, to have them for future generations, right? So if each one of us can make some small positive imprint for conservation or for the earth, collectively, the positive impact that we can have is really limitless on this earth. So it's really important to be activated. So thanks for joining me on this journey. And I'm here to answer questions about any of the animals that we've seen tonight or any of the programs that we've presented, if anyone has any. Yes, sir.
Part of the goal of this series is to sort of open students' minds, and I'm wondering for people who might be inspired tonight and maybe want to go into animal conservation, can you offer any advice in terms of education or career preparation for a career like yours?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a Bachelor of Science in Biology, marine emphasis actually, and from San Diego State, right here in California. And I decided that I really wanted to be a zoologist when I was 12. Right, and I thought 8 years of school, it's going to be just a disaster. I can never get through it. Wow, it took me about that long to get this degree. And I started volunteering because I wanted to do both. I wanted to get my education in biology, and I thought the best way I could do it is to get hands-on experience at the same time. So I started volunteering in the conservation department of Lincoln Park Zoo, and also I started as a reef diver and water quality and conservation at the Shedd Aquarium. I wanted to do it all and get immersed in all of biology as I was learning, because I thought that hands-on experience would be the best, and it truly is. To this day, I will say anybody that can get any hands-on experience, whether it's in the lab at school, or whether it's out there volunteering at a place like Project Wildlife or a Humane Society or a private organization like ourselves, or even a larger organization. Volunteering is a big part of it, of getting your feet dirty, getting your hands wet, kind of diving in and learning at the same time. But get your biology degree and get as much practical, hands-on experience as you can through volunteerism or internships. I know internships have become quite a big thing, and we take on many, many interns and volunteers at our organization. And really the education that you can get hands-on it truly is also limitless. What have you experienced from your volunteering?
Just to give you a little bit of my background, I'm actually a high school math teacher. And yeah, so I kind of found that I had a passion for animals as well, and found Wild Wonders. I actually did a tour of the facility. Kim showed me around and found out that they accepted volunteers, and so I got involved, started volunteering. And just the amount of information I've learned about the animals and learned about our impact on these animals and what we're doing to either support them or also hurt them, whether it's on purpose or on accident, has really empowered me, and it's something that I like to communicate to my students, because I truly believe that the next generation is who is really going to change what we see in this world. And that's why I went into teaching, and that's why I also like to give them that information of not just math, but also about the animal conservation that I'm so passionate about. And so the experiences I've had at Wild Wonders, not only just handling the animals, but also building those relationships and then learning so much, has really shown me that anyone can really get their feet into this field, and there's a lot of work to be done. It's just finding the right place where you feel most comfortable. So I would really just look for different organizations, look for volunteering at the zoo just to go and talk to the people about the animals you see, or coming to Wild Wonders and helping. I mean, you saw what I did. That's what I do usually on my shift. I pick up poop. It's very glamorous. But through that, I've learned a lot about those animals, and I've developed an even deeper passion for conserving wildlife as well as protecting this earth.
Yeah, it's very important to get as much diverse experience as you can, I think, to kind of decide what avenue, what route you want to take, because there's so many opportunities and so many diverse opportunities in the animal field. Anything from training elephants all the way down to water quality testing on fish. I mean, it really is everything in between, the gamut. So the world is your oyster. Just kind of get out there and search and find what your niche is. Find what you like to do. You're not going to like everything. And some things you may find that your strengths are more suited to, right? As you get into things and you find out maybe it's not quite right, or maybe this avenue opens up for you. So I would say explore as much as you can and kind of keep your mind open. Because a lot of things that I kind of shut down in myself, that's not something I would be involved with. When I first started at Wild Wonders, it was a little tiny ad in the Reader. And it was for birthday parties, biology preferred individual. And I thought, okay, I need a job. I can't find a marine job, but it's going to be a clown show. And 14 years later, I am the co-director, and it's a fit. So you keep your mind open and try things, because you won't believe what can happen if you do. I'll give you a couple minutes on Wild Wonders. We rescue, educate, and conserve. So we have about 130 animals or so, and about 2/3 of them are rescued animals. So they come from abandonments, owner-relinquished animals, illegal pets, non-releasable wildlife like our great horned owl here. And then the other third come from born in captive situations to be education ambassadors. That's their job. Our 2 cheetahs that we have, that is their job. They raise funds for wild cheetahs in Africa. So they are conservation ambassadors to their species. We support Cheetah Conservation Botswana, Cheetah Conservation Fund, Action Cheetah Kenya, Cheetah Outreach. We support many different organizations that are helping to protect the habitat and protect the cheetahs, right, in Africa. So we do fundraisers a couple times a year for that. So that's another avenue in the animal field, what we do. So rescue, educate. We do education programs, education outreach in schools and libraries and events all over to teach kids and adults about conservation. That's kind of what we're doing about these animals. And we think that animals are a great tool to kind of show you up close and personal of why they're special and why we need to keep them around. And the third part is conservation. As I said, we're very involved with different conservation organizations. Binturong Conservation, Arcticus binturong, or bear cats, the popcorn animals. We have 5. We're very involved with Binturong Conservation. There's very little known out there in the Indonesian archipelago of what's happening with binturongs. Very little known. So there's one organization working with them. So we're trying to be instrumental in helping get those collars out there and get the researchers out in the field. And so it's really important to us. It's near and dear to our hearts to not only give our animals a home for life, but also help support their wild cousins, because we need to protect the animals but also the habitat, as it protects more than just one species. We're all connected. So that's very important, near and dear to our hearts. So we do outreach. We also do tours at our facility. We do interactive tours. We do cheetah tours. We do feed a bear cat tour. We do cheetah breakfast. And we do private tours where I bring animals out for you to touch like this. And I promise no mess with the Kinkajou. So we do a lot of different things, but we are a private organization. We're not open to the public, but we do things arranged. Well, thank you for joining me on this journey tonight. I really appreciate all of your attention and all of your questions, and get out there, get activated. Thank you so much.